Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never saw the knife coming until it was buried in your back? That's exactly what happened to me. But this story doesn't end with me bleeding out on the floor of betrayal. No, this is about how justice finally came around full circle. They say with friends like these, who needs enemies? I had such a friend, and he would have doomed everything I'd worked for, but for one small thing. Listen on to find out what that was. My name is Alex Chen. For 15 years I've been designing computer hardware in a small workshop behind my house. I'm not what you'd call a social butterfly. I've always been more comfortable with circuit boards than people, which is why my friendship with Granville Donovan meant so much to me. We met in college, two tech nerds with big dreams. While everyone else was partying, Granville and I would stay up late in the dorm lounge, sketching ideas on napkins and debating which technologies would change the world. He was everything I wasn't: charming, outgoing, confident. Where I stumbled over my words in class presentations, Granville could captivate a room. We balanced each other perfectly. After graduation, Granville went into tech marketing while I focused on engineering. We stayed close, meeting for weekly dinners to catch up. He'd tell me about the corporate world and I'd share my latest projects. Our friendship was the one constant in my life, or so I thought. 3 years ago, I started working on something big. Really big. I called it the Quantum Bridge, a revolutionary communication device that could encrypt data using quantum principles, making it virtually unhackable. In a world where data breaches happen daily, this could change everything. "This is incredible, Alex," Granville said when I first showed him my prototype. We were sitting in my workshop, empty pizza boxes pushed aside to make room for my diagrams. "Do you realize what this could be worth?" "It's not about the money," I told him, adjusting my glasses. "Think about hospitals, government agencies, ordinary people. Everyone deserves secure communication." Granville smiled, clapping me on the shoulder. "Always the idealist. That's why I need you in my life." For 18 months, I worked on the Quantum Bridge, refining the technology. Sometimes Granville would stop by, watching me work, asking questions. I never thought twice about showing him everything: the circuits, the code, my notes. He was my best friend. Why would I hide anything? The first hint that something was wrong came in an email from a former classmate. "Saw the press release about Granville's new startup. Congrats on the partnership. Always knew you two would do something big together." Partnership? What partnership? With a growing sense of unease, I searched online and found it, a sleek website for a new company called Quantum Shield Technologies. There was Granville, smiling confidently in a professional headshot, described as founder and CEO. The company promised revolutionary quantum encryption technology that sounded exactly like my quantum bridge. My hands shook as I scrolled through the site. There was no mention of me, not a single word. I called Granville immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted, emailed, even drove to his apartment. Nothing. Finally, 3 days later he called back. "Alex! Sorry I've been off the grid, it's been crazy with the launch." "Launch?" My voice was barely a whisper. "Granville, what's going on? Quantum Shield is my technology." A pause. "Look, I was going to talk to you about this. The thing is, I've been developing this concept for years. I know it's similar to what you've been tinkering with, but..." "Tinkering?" The word felt like a slap. "I showed you everything, Granville, my designs, my code, everything. I think you're confused, buddy." His voice had that smooth marketing polish now. "Sure, we talked about encryption concepts, but Quantum Shield is built on my original work. I've got the documentation to prove it." My mind raced. Documentation? Had he been planning this all along? All those evenings in my workshop asking questions, taking pictures to show his mom my cool setup? He'd been gathering information. "You stole from me," I said, the reality crushing down on me. "How could you do this?" "That's a serious accusation, Alex." His voice turned cold. "Be careful what you say publicly. My company has good lawyers." Then he hung up. I sank to the floor of my workshop, surrounded by the parts and plans of my invention, my life's work, feeling hollow. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated that I couldn't even cry. This wasn't just about the technology. Granville had taken my trust, my friendship, and treated it like nothing. That night I barely slept. When morning came, I checked the Quantum Shield website again and saw the announcement. Granville would be unveiling the technology at Tech Future, the biggest conference in our industry, in just 3 weeks. The next few days passed in a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Granville smiling at me across my workbench, planning his theft while pretending to be my friend. "You need to fight this," my sister May told me over the phone. "Get a lawyer." But it wasn't that simple. I had no patents filed yet. I'd been so focused on perfecting the technology that I'd delayed the paperwork. Granville, meanwhile, had already filed provisional patents claiming the invention as his own. "It would be your word against his," a tired-looking intellectual property lawyer told me after reviewing my case. "And he's got a head start with the filings and the public announcement, unless you have solid proof that he took your specific designs." I didn't. I had shown him everything willingly, never documenting our conversations or his access to my work. Why would I? He was my best friend. The darkest moment came when I read an interview Granville gave to a tech blog. "Quantum Shield represents years of my research into quantum encryption," he said. "I've dedicated my life to solving this problem." I threw my coffee mug against the wall, watching it shatter. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely clean up the mess. This wasn't just theft, it was Granville erasing me completely, stealing not just my invention but my very identity as its creator. For a week I considered giving up. What was the point? Granville had the connections, the charisma, the head start. I was just a solitary engineer with a now-empty workshop. But then something changed. I was sorting through old photos, torturing myself with memories of our friendship, when I found one from a camping trip 3 years ago. Granville and I were standing by a lake at sunset, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning like idiots. Written on the back was a note in his handwriting. "To my brother from another mother, who always keeps me honest." Honest. The word hit me like a thunderbolt. Granville had stolen my invention, yes. But there was something he didn't know, something I'd discovered during my research that I hadn't shared with anyone, not even him. I read the Tech Future conference schedule again. Granville would be giving the keynote address on the main stage. Quantum Encryption, the Future of Data Security, presented by Granville Donovan, founder of Quantum Shield Technologies. A plan began to form in my mind. Not revenge exactly, but justice. Granville thought he knew everything about my invention, but there was a critical flaw in the current design, one that I'd discovered only recently and was working to fix. If he had built his quantum shield based on my earlier designs, that flaw would be present, and I could prove it. I called in every favor, emptied my savings account, and somehow secured a small exhibition booth at Tech Future. It cost nearly everything I had, but I would have a presence at the conference, right across from the main stage where Granville would be speaking. For the next 2 weeks I worked day and night, but not on my invention. Instead, I built a simple demonstration that would expose the critical flaw in the quantum encryption method Granville had stolen. If I was right, his device would be vulnerable to a specific type of attack, one that anyone could verify with the right equipment. I also gathered everything I could about Granville's background, not for blackmail, but to understand what I was dealing with. That's when I discovered something interesting. Before switching to marketing, Granville had briefly worked for a tech company that had been sued for corporate espionage. The case was settled quietly, but Granville had left the company immediately after. This wasn't his first time stealing intellectual property. As the conference approached, my determination grew. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every creator who had ever been exploited, every friendship that had been betrayed, every truth that had been buried under lies. The night before the conference, I couldn't sleep. Doubt crept in. What if I was wrong about the flaw? What if no one believed me? What if Granville's charm won over the audience no matter what I proved? I stared at the ceiling, remembering all the times Granville and I had talked about changing the world together. Had it all been an act? Had he been planning this betrayal from the beginning? The thought made my stomach turn. "I trusted you," I whispered into the darkness, "but tomorrow everyone will know the truth." Tech Future was even bigger than I expected. Thousands of people filled the convention center, moving between elaborate company displays and presentation rooms. My tiny booth looked pathetic in comparison. Just a table, my demonstration equipment, and a simple sign that read, "Quantum Encryption, the Truth." From my position, I could see the main stage being prepared for Granville's keynote. His company's logo, which looked suspiciously similar to an early design I'd sketched, was everywhere. Giant banners, promotional materials, even t-shirts worn by attractive booth staff. He had gone all out. My hands trembled as I set up my equipment. Several people walked by, glancing curiously at my booth but moving on to the flashier displays. I didn't blame them. Why pay attention to a nobody when tech celebrity Granville Donovan was about to reveal the next big thing? An hour before his keynote, I spotted him across the hall, surrounded by admirers and press. He looked confident in an expensive suit, laughing and shaking hands. I ducked behind my booth before he could see me. My phone vibrated. A text from May. "You've got this. Truth wins." I hoped she was right. As the time for Granville's presentation approached, the crowd began moving toward the main stage. I gathered my courage and the small device I'd built, then followed them. According to my badge, I wasn't allowed backstage, but I had to try. "Excuse me," I said to a security guard, summoning confidence I didn't feel. "I'm part of the demonstration team for the quantum shield presentation. Mr. Donovan requested this last-minute equipment check." The guard looked skeptical, but something in my desperate expression must have convinced him. He waved me through. Backstage was chaos, technicians running final checks, PR people huddled in corners, and there, in the center of it all, Granville. Our eyes met across the room, and for a moment he froze. "Alex?" His confident facade cracked slightly. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said quietly. "Now!" Granville glanced around, then pulled me into a small green room. The moment the door closed, his friendly expression vanished. "You need to leave," he hissed. "This is my moment." "Your moment?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "This is my technology, Granville. My life's work." "Prove it," he smirked. "Oh wait, you can't. I've got the patents pending. I've got the company. I've got the audience. What do you have?" I looked him straight in the eye. "I have the truth. Your quantum shield has a fatal flaw in the encryption algorithm, a vulnerability that would make it useless for actual security." For a fraction of a second, uncertainty flickered across his face. Then he laughed. "Nice try, but I've had the best engineers in Silicon Valley verify every aspect of this technology." "Engineers who were working with an incomplete understanding," I replied. "Because you stole an early version. You didn't wait for me to solve the phase transition problem." Now real doubt showed in his eyes. "What are you talking about?" "The quantum channels decohere under specific frequency interactions. It creates a backdoor in the encryption. I discovered it 3 weeks ago, after the last time you were in my workshop." Granville's face paled slightly. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Let me demonstrate during your presentation. If I'm wrong, you've lost nothing. If I'm right..." I let the implication hang in the air. "Get out," he snapped. "Security!" As a guard approached, Granville quickly composed himself. "This person shouldn't be backstage. Please escort him out." I didn't resist as the guard led me away. I'd said what I needed to say. Now it was time for Plan B. I returned to my booth and picked up the device I'd built, a simple but powerful demonstration of the security flaw. Then I made my way to the audience seating, finding a spot near the front. The lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the stage as Granville walked out to enthusiastic applause. He looked every inch the successful tech visionary, gesturing confidently as he began his presentation. "Today marks a revolution in data security," he announced. "Quantum Shield will make data breaches a thing of the past. Your medical records, your financial information, your private conversations, all completely secure." My heart raced as he continued, describing his technology in terms clearly lifted from my notes. On a large screen behind him, animation showed how the quantum encryption worked, or how it was supposed to work. "We've created an unbreakable lock," Granville declared. "A security system that not even the most powerful supercomputers could crack." That was my cue. I stood up, device in hand. "That's not true," I said loudly, "and I can prove it." The audience turned toward me. Granville squinted into the crowd, his smile faltering when he recognized me. "Security, please remove this person," he said into his microphone. But I was already walking toward the stage, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "My name is Alex Chen. I'm the actual inventor of this technology which Granville Donovan stole from my workshop, and I can demonstrate right now that his version has a critical security flaw." Security guards moved toward me, but someone from the audience, a tech journalist I recognized, called out, "Let him speak! This is getting interesting!" Others joined in. The audience was intrigued by the drama unfolding before them. Granville tried to regain control. "This is ridiculous! This person is a former colleague who's jealous of our success." "Former colleague?" I interrupted, now standing at the edge of the stage. "You mean your best friend for 15 years, the person whose work you stole?" The crowd murmured. I could see phones recording the confrontation. "Test it yourself," I said, holding up my device. "This simple frequency generator will cause the quantum shield to decohere, creating a backdoor in the encryption. Anyone can build this with parts from an electronics store." I turned to the audience. "Quantum shield isn't secure, it's a flawed copy of my original design, a design I've been perfecting for 3 years. Granville's face contorted with anger. "This is slander! Security! Get him out of here now!" But it was too late. I had connected my device to the demonstration unit on stage. On the large screen behind Granville, error messages began flashing. The encryption was failing, exactly as I had predicted. The audience gasped. Tech journalists were furiously taking notes. Granville stared at the screen in horror. "This isn't possible," he whispered, but his microphone caught the words. "It is possible," I replied calmly, "because you didn't understand what you stole. You took my work without understanding the deeper principles behind it." Then I revealed my final card. "And this isn't the first time, is it, Granville? Before you founded Quantum Shield, you worked for Next-Gen Technologies, until they discovered you were stealing trade secrets." The audience erupted in conversation. Granville looked like he might collapse. "I have documentation," I continued, "including emails from your former supervisor detailing the incident. I also have my original designs for the quantum bridge, dated 18 months before your invention, with witnesses who saw me developing it." Security had reached me now, but they hesitated, looking uncertainly between me and Granville. A voice called from the audience, "Let him finish!" The conference organizer hurried onto the stage, whispering urgently to Granville, who seemed to shrink before everyone's eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," the organizer announced, "we're going to take a short break. Please stay seated." What happened next unfolded with surprising speed. The tech journalists present broke the story immediately. Tech entrepreneur accused of stealing quantum encryption technology. Live demonstration exposes fatal flaw. Conference security didn't remove me. Instead, they escorted Granville to a private room, where he was soon joined by his company's lawyers. I was asked to present my evidence to the conference organizers and several industry experts who had been in the audience. By evening, Granville's investors had called an emergency meeting. By the next morning, he had been removed as CEO of Quantum Shield, pending an investigation. 2 days later, I received a call from Granville's former company, confirming that he had indeed been let go for intellectual property theft. 3 more former colleagues came forward with similar stories. The patent office put Granville's applications on hold. My own attorney, working pro bono after hearing my story, filed emergency paperwork to protect my invention. A week after the conference, as the story continued to spread through the tech world, I received an unexpected visitor at my workshop. It was Elaine Winters, one of the most respected venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. "I was in the audience," she said, looking around at my humble workspace. "I've never seen anything like that in 20 years of tech conferences." I shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "I just wanted the truth to come out." "And it did," she smiled. "But that's not why I'm here. I'm interested in your actual invention, the one without the security flaw, the real quantum bridge." We talked for hours. By the end, she had offered funding to develop and bring my technology to market properly, with me retaining majority control and full credit as the inventor. As for Granville, his career in tech was effectively over. The last I heard, he had moved to another state, trying to escape the scandal. Part of me felt sorry for him, despite everything. He had talent, real talent, as a marketer and presenter. If he had partnered with me honestly, we could have done amazing things together. 3 months after the conference, just as we were preparing to launch the real quantum bridge, I received a letter. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. "Alex," it read, "I don't expect forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. But I need you to know that in the beginning, our friendship was real. Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of what matters. Success became more important than people, more important than the one person who always believed in me. I'm sorry, not for getting caught, but for betraying you in the first place. You deserved better." It was signed simply, Granville. I sat for a long time with that letter, remembering the friend I had known before greed and ambition corrupted him. I didn't forgive him, not yet, maybe not ever. But I understood something important. His betrayal hadn't broken me. In fact, it had made me stronger, more determined, more aware of my own worth. The quantum bridge launched the following month to critical acclaim. True quantum encryption, developed by a previously unknown engineer named Alex Chen. My life changed overnight. Interviews, speaking engagements, investment opportunities, but through it all I remembered the lesson I had learned. Success means nothing without integrity. Technology means nothing without truth. And inventions, even world-changing ones, mean nothing without the human connections that give them purpose. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Stand up for your truth, even when it's scary. Even when the other person seems to hold all the cards. Truth has a power all of its own, and sooner or later, it finds its way to the light. This is Alex Chen, signing off. I'd love to hear your stories of standing up for truth in the comments below, or just your stories of weird things you've seen happen or heard of. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button below, And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life experiences that might just change the way you see the world.